Well, it's safe to say your boy is re-inspired. Doing a little work on the diesel. Oh yeah, don't mind the humongous bong over here. Ignore that. It's not mine. So, what am I doing today? I am taking off the front U-joint on the driver's side of the Ram. I know it's like, oh, you know, you just bought a new truck. Why are you working on it? Well, this is just what happens. This is things that happen. You know, we went on like a 1,000-mile trip on the way back, and then I went up to Sacramento, and I've been driving around here, and it may have been making noise. I don't know, but I heard it making noise recently, and the U-joint has some play in it, which I'm not a fan of. So, you gotta do a few things when you get into this. It's brake caliper off, same typical shit with the wheels off, ABS line off right there, next. Brake calipers, that was a pain in the ass. You know what's so funny is like having bolts to take off that are this size, like versus like working on the IS. Everything on that car is miniature compared to this. You have to use so much force, or at least work a lot smarter and not work too hard and be better. But I've never used tools this size before on something. So this is pretty neat. These are humongous brake caliper bolts. So brake caliper comes off. Next, you're gonna do once you tap the rotor off a little bit. I tapped it off with a little crowbar, pry bar. Just like wedged a little bit against this on the back side of the knuckle. Popped it right off. And then now it's getting the hub separated so I can pull that CV axle and U-joint out. So to get this axle nut off, everybody said, some people said it's like a 42 mil, some people said it was a SAE, which it is SAE. It is an American truck. The size you're gonna want is 1/11/16. Some forums had it correct. I just wanted to put this in my video in case anybody was looking. So 1/11/16. This is a full inch drive. This bad boy is mother and huge, dude. That is a damn weapon. Can't even pick it up with one hand, I don't think. Yeah, no, that's heavy. That's gonna go right over the axle nut. And I don't have any air tools here that are gonna fit this, let alone any buzzies. So I just looked online real fast, put the truck in 4-wheel drive lock, which kept the front axle from spinning, and then I held it, and I popped this off with a huge jack breaker bar. Homemade tools, man. That is where it's at. You have to be able to like make shit work when you're in a bind and you don't have a shop to do things at and all the tools at your resource. So now we're doing another trick that everybody knows about that has pulled the CV axle off on these trucks, is popping this hub separator, or separating this hub off. So what you do is there's 4 bolts that lock this knuckle in. And instead of like busting your ass trying to wedge, pry, hit, it's just gonna take you forever. You use the steering hydraulics against the ears here, and it basically pushes this off by like jamming something in there. Pretty much, you're wedging something against it, and you're pushing it off via the bolt. So it's kind of cool. So the bolt is not in all the way. It's flat here, but usually it sticks out further. You can probably see it right there. Yeah, so usually sticks out about another 1/2 inch further. So it's a little bit tipped on the other side. So what you're gonna do from there is I'm gonna have my brother get in the truck, and then he's gonna turn the steering wheel to the left a little bit, and then hopefully it's gonna separate this hub right here, and then I can pull everything else off. So you're basically just throwing something, a socket and an extension, something that can fit in there right now, which this should be able to, over that bolt. If I had this done properly. And then once he turns it against it, it'll pop it out. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so he's got this wedged in there right now, and he's gonna keep turning the wheel to the right. This is tight on here. He's gonna keep turning the wheel to the right, and then it should pop this a little bit loose and separate it. So go ahead, turn it a little bit to the right, just a little bit. Keep going. It's gonna probably give you some. It's probably gonna give you some force. Keep going. Okay, stop. Stop, turn back, see how it's separated? Nice. Keep going. Okay, stop. Turn it back the other way. All right, cool. Yeah, it's separated. It's better than using the hub puller. Yeah, all the way back. Okay, so once you have all those backed off a little bit, you'll see it start to separate. You do all 4. You're just putting it against something in the back, really, like the ears are down below. That piece goes to the bottom one, this is for the top one, etc. on the other side. And then you're just popping it out. And just do it slow if you're afraid. I had that castle nut on there to save my life in case this falls out, like it's pushing on it right now. So, yeah. Now we're good. We're going to pull it off. Once you pull that half of the hub off, I'll just slip off on the gears and the splines on the axle. And then the CV axle, or the half shaft, will come straight out this way once you give it a good tug. And there it is. There is the half axle, or the half shaft. The driver's side, front drive line, baby. First mods to the truck. Just kidding, it's not a mod, it's a replacement. So what we'll be doing, I'll show you right now, we're replacing this 4-point piece. So like what is bad, I can show you guys on camera right now, hopefully. Try and hold this like this. Which piece is bad? Okay, this should not have side-to-side play like that. It should not have that lateral movement, so it is therefore bad. And now, we'll be getting a nice $18 replacement. Moog joints, dude. Moog, Duralast, all those, just so cheap. I didn't realize how cheap they were for this truck. It's kind of nice. Besides yesterday being really annoying and the auto parts store selling me the wrong auto part, and having a jump around to like 4 or 5 different places, even though I gave them the right part number, and just pain in the ass. So I didn't have the CV axle off when I was buying the part. I figured a U-joint was just going to be a U-joint, even though I told them it was from the wheel. Turns out you have to tell them it's a wheel joint. So everybody was like 3 different auto parts stores kept selling me a smaller version of that U-joint and not the correct one. So I had to put it on order, check today. Fucking AutoZone didn't even have it, and they didn't even place the order. So I was like, all right, screw it. So I had to go drive to Panola and finally get it myself. And then I had to figure out how to get out these snap rings that were holding this thing in. So the snap rings I had to get off that were holding on from the U-joint on both sides. And so it chiseled to them, hammer. They're super rusted. They pretty much just broke in half at that point. Here is what they look like. There's a couple that were okay still, but for the majority of them, or the other 2 just snapped in half because they were so rusted. So got those snap rings off, and I had to figure out how to, because I don't have a vise here, so I had to set the U-joint on the axle shaft in between like 2 hard things. So I found these 2 4x4s, and I set it in there, and I started banging on that tip piece of it, and then they just started popping through. And then what comes off is these little caps, and then the needles that are in there with the grease, but these are so disgusting and horrible, and they just fell apart when I pulled them off. So you know, they were just ran through, and there's definitely time to get some new ones in there. Ended up doing the exact same method of placing the caps through the hole of the U-joint, and then you'll see it here. So you can see that the new U-joint in there, the top of the cap. So I placed the caps on both sides, slid the U-joint in there, and then just gave a little light taps all the way around until it like was perfectly seated. The only problem with this U-joint is that they didn't give me the right C-rings. Like these C-clamp, whatever, retaining clips, they didn't give me those. They gave me the ones that go on the bottom of the drive shaft where it has like a U here and then a line down where you can like pinch and squeeze. And those would ideally go on top of this per se, this like U-joint right here. They would sit right on top of that and hold it there. But this, like, it wasn't even the right clips for the right U-joint. They're just like, whoever designed that, I think it's Duralast. It was just absolutely stupid. So I had to reuse. So I had to basically take the wire dike to measure them up to these, and then clip the other ones and get them to fit in there. So I'm hoping it stays and they fit. And yeah. And then from here, I'm gonna go to look up the torque specs for the hub. So I just got the hub back on. Make sure you oil that drive shaft when you replace it, or the axle shaft. Oil the tip of it when you put the splines and the teeth back in. And then I just got the hub bolts all tightened on there a little bit. I'm going to see what the torque spec is to snug them. And then from here, I'll put the axle nut on, or the castle nut for the axle bolt. Tighten that bitch down. And then brake caliper, ABS sensor, rotor, wheel, good to go. So yeah. Little project to turn into 2 days. It should have been, if I had the right tools, you know, like, and right parts, should have been a fucking couple hours, whatever. That's how it is, garage mechanic life. Good Lord, if you are going to be a Dodge mechanic or any kind of heavy-duty truck mechanic from now on, make sure you get a wrench this size. Okay? Unless you have air tools. If you have air tools, then that's how I feel about you. But man, dude, I just had to crank the freaking caliper mounting bolts right here to 275 foot-pounds. Are you me? Are you kidding? Dude, what? How hard? Good Lord. All right, that's how you become skilled in working on heavy-duty parts on a diesel truck. It was actually a pretty simple job. It just took a lot of time because I didn't have the right tools, so I had to get the right tools, and parts were rusty, and they sold me the wrong part. So beyond that, though, it wasn't too bad. It's fun to learn. It's crazy how hard I had to torque those things, but yeah, that fixed the knock for sure. Already drove it up and down the street and it's good to go, so bam.